Hi, welcome to AI Art. In today's vlog, I'm going to be discussing multiple attackers and whether or not we are preparing appropriately to learn how to better our odds in terms of survival and dealing with multiple opponents. When we talk about dealing with multiple opponents, there are several things to consider. The environment we are in, whether we are armed or unarmed, how the attackers may be armed or not armed, if we're surprised, if we're prepared to deal with the given attack. These are some of the things that we have to consider beforehand and during our training to make sure that our training is both appropriate and realistic for the potential situations we might find ourselves in. Hopefully the following video clips will make you think a little bit and will give you an understanding of some of the things that I talk about and describe in the training that I give to my students from day one when they arrive here. When we talk about preparing for self-defense and personal protection. In this first video clip, what we see is we have one male. He's armed with a large knife and he's facing off against ostensibly one opponent. He launches an attack on the one opponent and he finds out that the opponent's friend has decided to jump in and get involved. Now this took place outside in the street. He was lucky in that the initial opponent that he faced had been injured and wasn't able to move well, and so he was able to reposition himself relative to the two opponents and find an escape. That's really oftentimes your best case scenario, is if you do find yourself engaged with more than one person, to find a way to escape is usually a good option if you can get it. Here in this second clip, what we have is a situation where you have a store and a large countertop that separates the cashier from the clients and potential buyers out on the store floor. That's very common where you see a counter or a register, but oftentimes that also puts the store clerk or the store owner in jeopardy if there's more than one opponent, or if an opponent should cut off access to escape. Here in this particular video clip, you see two attackers and they both engage the store clerk. Fortunately, for the original store clerk, someone else comes to his aid and they're able to fight off both attackers. However, you can see both store people were injured and bleeding from the head. Had the attackers had better weapons, longer weapons like machetes, that may or may not be the case. But in this particular scenario, the attackers were driven off and the store clerks were able to escape with a minimum of injury. This next clip is a little different. In this next clip, what you've got is you've got two, I believe three attackers. We don't see their faces, so it's hard to identify them. But one of the main attackers, as you can see, is armed with two machetes. All of the attackers appear to have long machetes. And in this particular clip, you see the store owner, as he sees them approach into his store, he goes and gathers up his own machete to try to deal with them. Unfortunately, as you can see, he is either struck or he stumbles and falls to the ground and is not effective in protecting himself and or his store contents. Fortunately for him, it really seems as though the attackers were more concerned about being able to make off with his products as opposed to injuring him. So he was able to survive this particular incident. But you can see the aggressiveness and the intent of the three attackers as they came into the store with intention to steal what they could. In addition, as you can see, the counter, while it did protect the store clerk from more injury and more damage, it did make it difficult for him to escape, and being elderly and not able to move well, he fell and was not able to get up easily. Now what we have is a video clip showing a man talking to another person, and somehow they got into a disagreement. He gets stabbed in the back, and then three other people jump in, and they are punching him, kicking him, and stabbing him. And he did die. In this particular scenario, there were four people against one, and he was overwhelmed. There was little chance for escape. It was difficult because the initial stab that got him in the back made it less likely that he was able to move and escape well. Once the other people closed in, it was very, very difficult. One of the things, in my opinion, he could have done was to try to, if he was arguing or in a confrontation with the initial knifer, perhaps he could have kept some distance. The fact that the guy was able to stab him in the back shows you how close they were, and shows you how vulnerable he was to an attack from the blind side. That slowed him down a lot, and when the other attackers jumped in, the victim had to contend with pain and had to contend with attacks from different directions, and it was just overwhelming. So initial distance would have been a good thing to have had. Had he had an awareness that these gentlemen were armed and willing to jump to the aid of the initial knifer, perhaps he wouldn't have been as aggressive or as confrontational. Just something to think about. Finally, on this last video, which only happened a few days ago here in New York City, you see two gentlemen who jumped from behind a victim, and they actually cut him on the face and hand. Both attackers are armed with knives, and they pulled him down to the ground, cutting him, stabbing him, and making off with $60. You know, that's one of those things where hopefully, you know, awareness does help. If you understand that people may be coming at you, you know, hopefully you can hear someone, you know, moving into position behind you. Hopefully you can have a sense of whether or not people are about to attack. Actually, that can be, that type of sensitivity can be trained and enhanced. It doesn't mean that you have magical, mystical powers that you can obviously always sense things, but there is an ability to improve and enhance one's sensitivity to the environment. So those are things to think about. When they pull him down to the ground, that initial contact, it's not clear whether they cut him with the initial contact, but it was clear that they were able to drag him down to the ground. Some of the things that he could have possibly done were maybe flex the head down, the neck going down, would make it less likely that he would be pulled down in such a violent and helpless manner. Okay, I hope you found these clips useful. I hope these clips will make you think a little bit, make you aware that multiple attacker situations are more common than we realize normally, and that multiple attacker situations are a real threat. And you know, hopefully you will think about adding training to prepare for that in your own personal training and development. If you like the clip, you find these types of things useful, please hit the button below, subscribe to my channel. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to add to the comments below and let me know what you think. Okay, thank you again for watching my channel, A High Art. I teach here in New York City. My website is knifetraining.nyc. and also ahighart.com. Check us out, okay? I think you might be pleased with you know, what it is that we do. I really think we have the most realistic training in the area. In addition to knife work, we do teach stick work, improvised weapons, and combat cane. So, oh, and empty-hand combatives. So it is a complete fighting system, and you know, we're always continually learning. And we have quite a few instructor level people in our classes from other martial arts that have come and joined us and trained with us on a somewhat regular basis. Okay, thank you again. Talk to you soon. See you on the next one. Thank you.